So my buddy dropped off his PC today. Basically, he wants to sell this PC, except it doesn't look very presentable right now, so he gave me the task to clean it up and make it presentable for him to sell. And that's exactly what we're gonna do, except I thought I might as well lead you guys through my process of cleaning up this computer and getting it ready to sell. So let's get into it. So this is a computer by iBuyPower, which I feel like has kind of become a meme in the pre-built computer space, but either way, just looking at it first glance, it doesn't look that horrible, though right off the bat, I think I know exactly what I want to do, or just what my plans is to get this thing presentable, because I'm going to want to take a look around and just kind of see how bad it actually is. But before we do that, I do want to first of all do an initial boot of this thing. To first of all, make sure it works, make sure I'm not working on a dead PC. I also, while it's open, I want to check like the specs of it, as well as so we can put together a good parts list and description. Also just to see what we're working with here. And I am eventually going to go ahead and wipe that as well to get a clean SSD, right? Oh yes, because you can actually see the M.2 right in there, because he is running off of an M.2, which is great. Once we make sure everything is all good and working, I'm gonna take it back, give it a nice cleaning, get rid of all the dust that's in this, make it look squeaky clean, as well as reseat a bunch of components. So probably the RAM, I want to take off the cooler, clean up the thermal paste, repaste that and everything. Probably take apart the graphics card as well, replace the thermal pads and paste into that as well. From there, I do think I have some extra cable extensions, so I might slap those in there for the graphics card just to make that look better. And then I don't know how famous iBuyPower is for their cable management, but I'll probably redo some of that as well. Then we're gonna take some pictures of this thing. Hopefully we're able to change the RGB, because these do look like RGB fans. So I feel like actually the first thing I want, before anything else actually, I do want to actually check on the cable management. Again, I don't know how famous iBuyPower is for their cable management, but okay, actually, it's actually not that bad. I'm gonna be honest. I was expecting a lot worse. So they use zip ties. That's good. It looks like you have a little RGB controller there, which has your 4 fans in there. Also down here, didn't even know we had this. Looks like we also have an external HDD as well, which we're probably gonna need to look at, maybe format, or if my buddy wants to keep that, he can definitely do that. Power supply down here. So before anything, we're gonna wanna do an initial boot just to make sure, you know, it boots. Behold monitor. This is a very basic 27-inch Samsung, I think just 1080p, 60 hertz curved monitor. Again, very basic for this, we don't need much. It used to be in my setup, I switched it out for a 24-inch because it was a higher refresh rate. Only bad thing is like, takes up a lot of room on my desk, as you can see here. Hope and pray that this thing actually boots. Which it does, very good. Okay, sweet, we do have the RGBs too, so that's great. Okay, oh, would you look at that, it's booting right up. Sweet, we do have a post. That was actually a fairly fast post too. Let's try and get into it real quick. Okay, let's check this out. Okay, so it looks like for graphics card, we're rocking a GeForce GTX 1660 Super. And then let's check the rest of the specs. So for the CPU, it's, okay, so an Intel i7 11700F, 16 gigabytes, I'm assuming, yep, 16 gigs of DDR4. Right, running at 3000 megahertz. That's interesting. So it looks like that M.2 is like 512 gigs, and then the hard drive is about a 1 terabyte. Pretty sure that's all we need from this. We can go ahead and shut her down. Also, we'll probably find out about the power supply once we take a closer look at that. But before that, let's actually take a look at these fans too. So I'm impressed. iBuyPower actually did its fan orientation correctly. We have 3 in the front here. We can see all of these are intake, and we have 1 in the back for exhaust, which is actually correct. Congratulations, iBuyPower. Aside from that, I mean, it doesn't look horribly dusty. Yeah, we can definitely see some dust buildup there under the CPU cooler. If you could, yeah, look at that. Ooh. So let's take a look at the front panel, because I'm assuming, like a lot of these pre-builts, you can just pop this off. Yep, there it goes. Let's take a look. Oh, She's growing stuff under there. We are growing things here. My gosh. Wow, okay, so this is our first order of business right here. Okay, yeah, so this, I believe, is what started the coronavirus. He said this was after about 1.5 years of use. Anyways, the fans themselves, okay, they are pretty dusty still. We gotta deal with this. I gotta cover up this. Oh my gosh, it's everywhere, dude. It's actually everywhere. It's gonna invade my entire room. Oh my goodness. Okay, also another thing to look at, the glass isn't actually that bad. It's, okay, no, it does have quite a bit of dust on it, actually. To be fair, it's kind of hard to see where the airflow is coming from in this case because, okay, well, think about it this way. We have ventilation in the side here of this front panel here. So air can be sucked in through there. So there's this hole between these 3 panels here where it sucks in air. On this side though, there's nothing. So this side, no vents, no nothing. It's just straight solid. So that's the one thing I don't like that's one thing that I immediately don't like about this PC case is airflow, not great immediately off the bat just because of this front panel here. Speaking of air, I do want to also see how this top panel is doing. Some sticky substance here. Maybe something was spilled on top of the PC. So you can see that kind of sticky substance there. Something must have been spilled on top of this PC case. That's my conclusion for it. Oh yeah, look at that. Ooh. Now that we got that out of the way, we really gotta take this outside and give it the blower. You know what I'm saying? We gotta clean out this dust. So we're either gonna wipe it off, vacuum. Hang on. I have the perfect thing for this. Who needs data vacs when you have a mini leaf blower that also requires USB? I forgot about that. We're gonna try everything in our power to get the dust out of here. So let's go do that right now. Before my room gets any more flooded with swamp gooch. I just opened up the back to start cleaning things out, like all the dust at the bottom here. And I found a literal screwdriver. What? So the PC is looking much better now. I did take it outside. I dusted off most of what I could. So especially like the fans and on this like surface here, getting all the dust off, as well as of course in the front here, I really want to make sure to get rid of all of that dust and barnacles building up there. So it's much cleaner now. I did clean off the dust from the glass in this front panel here, cleaned off the glass as well to make it look relatively new, and for now it's looking relatively decent. And now is the step where we actually start deconstructing this and going inside the PC to start cleaning things up. We're actually, you know what? We're just gonna, if we're gonna take apart the PC, we might as well take out the graphics card right away, because this is gonna need cleaning too, whether separately or after like the CPU and everything is done. Unclip the graphics card and assess the damage. Ooh. Okay, so it looks like we have pretty standard MSI GTX 1660 Super here. I definitely can see a little bit of the dust build up on the fans. It doesn't seem horrible on the heatsink, but we definitely are going to take this, unscrew it, take it apart and repaste it and everything just to clean it up a bunch more. It's actually, I'm curious about this RAM here. Let's take out the RAM too. Interesting. So this is a, what is that? Forza is what it's called. Forza. So I guess Forza Horizon 5 made their own RAM? Not actually. I've not heard of this brand though, so... Okay, no, Neo Forza, my bad. Lots of more dust buildup around the motherboard once the graphics card was removed. Ooh. Anyway, I just want to wipe this down a little bit because this is actually relatively dirty down here. I feel like at this point in time we should just remove the cooler. Actually, let's unplug the cooler real quick just to make that easier on us. So let's actually go ahead and remove that cooler. So first of all, let's lay the PC on its side. Ooh, there we go. Just pops right off. There's the CPU. Oh, wow. Holy. That's like not even all thermal paste on there. That's just a, oh, wow. That's a lot of dust buildup. You know, my buddy was talking about how it was overheating a little bit. I can kind of see why now. Okay, so we are gonna, first of all, I think we're gonna grab some isopropyl alcohol and wipe off that CPU. We also want to wipe down this cooler as well because the cooler is also very dirty. Also, side note, this thermal paste does not want to come off. There is so much on this cooler here that just doesn't want to come off. So I think this is probably as good as we're gonna get it, right? There's no thermal paste on there, it's just kind of stained, I guess. And now that we've cleaned around this socket here, I do just now want to remove the CPU and see how much dust is actually on that, dude. It's kind of crazy. Okay, let's go ahead and remove the CPU. And there it is, our i7 11700F. All right, now there is, ooh, wow, there's still a few little dust bunnies around this. Now with the rest of this, oh my gosh, there's so much dust. Okay, fantastic. This is looking much better now. So the next step is going to be to clean off this CPU cooler here. My only option here is to just try and keep pulling out little dust bunnies like this. Except, because like with normal coolers, I imagine I could just go ahead and remove this fan part, but I'm not seeing anything to do that. I have quite a few more Q-tips. Hopefully it'll be enough. So I'm just gonna dip this in the isopropyl alk. We're just gonna try and get out as much of this dust as possible. This is after about 3 seconds. Okay, so this is what's looking like after. You can see those fins down there. There might still be a little bit of dust on them, but overall, I think it's okay. I think it's pretty good. So the next part of the PC here is going to be cleaning up this graphics card. So this is the GTX 1660 Super, and biggest problem with it is just the amount of dust in the fins and on like the on the grates in the back as well. It looks like there's dust on the PCB. Ooh, actually just look at that as well. You can see the amount of dust build up by the heatsink as well. Lots of dust that needs to be cleaned, but since we're also selling this as well, we do want to take apart this graphics card and actually clean inside of it as well. We're actually able to give this an unscrew. We should just be able to remove this, open up the graphics card, and there we are. Move this plug as well. Looking at the PCB here, first of all, you can see there's a lot of dust buildup by the ports there actually, as well as on the PCB as well. We can take off this back plate if we wanted to as well, which might be a good idea. Those are going to be all of these tiny little screws here that we have to remove. So let's go ahead and do that right away. And then we can immediately just remove that PCB from the back plate. And there is our GTX 1660 Super. Now granted, it does still have this metal piece on it, but I don't think we got to remove that for any purpose. Now we're going to be using our isopropyl alcohol to get off this thermal paste here and the remnants from these thermal pads, because we're also going to be replacing the thermal pads as well. Alright, so the PCB itself is looking pretty good on both sides, I think. Okay, so now we're actually going to begin work on the big old heatsink here. So just like we did with the PCB, we're going to first want to clean off that thermal paste here. If you look in the side here, you hopefully, well, from the top, you can just see the amount of dust in there, hopefully. It's a lot. it's gonna be a lot to do. So another thing as well, we can get rid of these thermal pads. So now comes the fun part where we get to unscrew the fans from the heat sink, which I do see the screws of. We have screws on the side here actually, so one there on the other end, same place as here, so one there and there as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and remove those real quick. And then this should just pop, yeah, oh wow, just pops right off. See the dusty mess? Ooh, wow, look at that, dude. Look at that. So this plastic, so just a nice wipe down is gonna do it for that. This is kind of what I wanna do with the CPU cooler, just be able to remove those, because then, wow, you can get access to all that swamp gooch. So this is actually gonna be relatively easy to clean, I think. I have a trash can right next to me, and yet for some reason, I just have a big pile of trash here. Okay, so after a little bit, this is now what it's looking like. I think it's actually looking relatively good. Again, there is some dust just still in the fins I can't really do much about, meaning now we can move on to this monstrosity right here. Oh yes, this wonderful cover. First things first, literally just wipe down the surface. I mean, that's what most of this is gonna be. All right, so we are, I think, about done with this now. We have got the fins cleaned off for the most part in the backside here and everything. I think it's looking good enough. So now I think it's about time to reassemble the graphics card. So now we just do everything we just did in reverse, minus the cleaning, of course. Graphics card is put back together and looking much better than when it started, if I do say so myself. Okay, so slight change of plans here. All that we need to is clean for this thing, which is great. And we are gonna go ahead and reassemble the computer, but I did have doubts about this cooler, right? And Buddy, before he dropped it off, was also mentioning some overheating issues, which I'm gonna blame the cooler for, but I do wanna reassemble the computer and then check the temperatures just to see, but almost definitely we are gonna end up upgrading the CPU cooler, which will be great because, might sell better as well. So right now we're actually gonna just reassemble this computer real fast and go ahead and check those temperatures just to see what the real culprit is behind it, but I think we already know. But anyways, let's go ahead and do that right now. First things first, let's go ahead and install this CPU. Okay, good. The important thing is that it posts. But as you can see, it is giving a post, so that's great. Okay, so first of all, let's look at the GPU. Temperatures right now, 38, high of 41. Honestly, nothing to be concerned about here. 30s, 40s, that's fine for the GPU. So CPU right here, 40 at the minimum, right? And then 64, 61 on the highs. Not great, dude. Side note, little break from the video to remind you guys to subscribe if you haven't already. If you look down below, you can see we are like 200 subscribers away from 1,000, which is honestly kind of crazy, the first little milestone there. And the great thing about being in these 3-digit numbers is that you can click the subscribe button, refresh the page, and see exactly how you made a difference. If you do enjoy anything tech, computers, all that stuff, subscribe because I do have more ideas for other videos, believe it or not. Okay, let's get back to the video. All right, so it has been a minute or two since we've touched this PC, and you're gonna notice that we have a few extra products here on the table, and that's because I'm gonna be honest. Ever since I first set eyes on this CPU cooler, I knew there was gonna be an issue. Now it's fine if it's like say an i3 or i5 or something, but the second I saw i7 11700, I was like, I don't know if this is cutting it. And when actually going in there and checking the temperatures, it really only proved me right. Safe to say, this CPU cooler is not doing this 11700F justice. So it most definitely has to be replaced, and that is what we have here. This is actually a pretty budget-friendly cooler. It is the ID Cooling SE214XTA RGB. So, especially for pictures and things, it's gonna fit the build pretty well with the RGB It's gonna look good, first of all, a lot better than this random blue fan. And also cool the CPU better, hopefully, as well. And the only other thing we got here are some cable extensions by Asia Horse. These are on Amazon for like 25 bucks. I think these, if I'm correct, are like a light blue, kind of cyan. Basically, just makes the PC look 10 times better. Even if it is like a pre-built like this, it's gonna make the PC look so much better. Let's not waste any time though, and we should probably get to replacing this cooler almost immediately. And then once we are done doing that, we're actually going to jump into some real benchmarks, looking at how it performs in games, also to keep an eye on the temperatures with the new cooler, because I'm really hoping this ID cooling cooler should be enough for it. I'm gonna be honest, I don't really like these packets of thermal paste. I don't like it. I don't know, man. Alright, let's go. The RGB is synced up too. And now with the PC fully working, it's time to jump into some benchmarks and check out those temperatures. Starting it off with some esport titles, Fortnite, we were noticing quite a few frame drops jumping out of the bus, but once we got on the ground, it was pretty consistent, 190 to 200 FPS. This is in performance mode, all low settings, by the way, so I believe competitive settings, and it was pretty consistent around that 190 to 200 mark. Now, I didn't do exceptionally well this round, but this was back in the season where everyone and their mother would just plow you down with a Cybertruck instead of using the provided firearms. But hey, at least they updated it, I think. Overwatch was a bit surprising to me. It was on all medium settings, and we were averaging around 90 to 100 FPS, which, from my experience, Overwatch is a pretty easy game to run. So I was actually pretty surprised that we weren't getting around 1 to 200 FPS in this. Maybe I was optimizing the settings wrong or something, but I'm not sure. Leave it in the comments below if you know anything. CS2, on the other hand, was running pretty consistently around 150 to 200 FPS in all medium settings. Granted, I'm not very good at the game, but the FPS is encouraging. GTA 5 at all low settings ran pretty well, anywhere from 120 FPS to 150. Now, I actually didn't act like a complete menace this time. In fact, I just kind of drove around, tried to figure out how on earth these missions worked, and even checked out the gun shop to see if I can get anything until realizing I'm broke. Jumping into some more intense titles, Forza Horizon 5 at all medium settings was getting 90 to 100 FPS. Also, throughout all of this, the temperatures have stayed pretty encouraging, with the GPU staying around 60 to 70 degrees Celsius, and the CPU, which previously was getting 70 degrees Celsius on Google Chrome, now hasn't even peaked 60 degrees, which is great to see. Oh, I did finally find out how to buy, tune, and wrap cars too, which allowed me to get this pretty decent Bugatti, except auctioning cars I don't want is kind of a pain because nobody wants them. And quite frankly, I don't blame them either. Hitman 3 at medium to low settings was barely breaking that 60 FPS mark. Granted, the temperatures were staying pretty consistent, not a problem at all. I would say it was definitely still playable, but the frames would average anywhere from 50 to 70 FPS at the very highest. Now, the finals in all medium settings was actually kind of disappointing, getting 60 to 70 FPS, though do keep in mind the finals is very intensive in the CPU and GPU department, but when I turned it down to all low settings, we were getting a pretty consistent 80 to 90 FPS, which is nice to see. When idling, the fans do stay pretty quiet, which is really nice, but I found when launching a single game, it turns into, a whole entire jet engine, basically. It's very loud. And with all of that, I think I can confidently say we have pretty substantially transformed this computer. I am actually really happy with how this came out. I was able to run it in a bunch of games as well, and it played relatively well in 1080p medium settings for almost all the games. Also, I'm happy to report temperatures did not peak over 70 degrees for either of the CPU or the GPU, which is fantastic considering the CPU was hitting 77 on slither.io, so massive improvement there. I was also able to take some pictures as well well. And overall, this was a pretty fun project, just getting to gut this PC and make it look fresh again. And if you guys did enjoy, then please consider subscribing because we are so close to 1,000. So every subscriber counts. If you guys are interested in a different computer I built, you can click up on screen right now. And with all of that said, I will catch you all in the next one.